What is up, YouTube? This is Edition 34, and we are taking a quick revisit of the Delphox deck, the Lucky Delphox deck, that we featured in last week's Budget Friday. I gotta say, this has been one of the decks that I've actually enjoyed probably the most of any Pokemon deck I've built so far, because its ability to draw and just play, and beat the coin toss by just overwhelming it with the sheer number of times you can play cards. Capitalizing on Delphox, it's just an incredibly fun deck. It's so synergistic. It really surprised me with how good it is. If you haven't built it yourself and played it either online or with friends, I definitely recommend it. It's a very fun deck to play. Now that said, this deck does have a little bit of a drawback, and that is that your turns tend to be very long, not because the decisions are difficult, but because you get to play so many cards. I can easily draw 25 or 30 cards a turn, and have a comparable number of cards that I play every turn. So my turns tend to be kind of long, which makes the game a little unfun for my opponents. With practice, I imagine you can get faster, but obviously getting to know the deck, it can be challenging, and that can make it challenging at tournaments where you have a time limit. But that said, I talked about revisiting the deck and adding or taking away cards to make it not a budget deck. But to be honest, this deck is kind of naturally budget even in its best form. The only changes I can really advocate, mildly you could advocate adding a second Lysander's Trump card. This card is incredibly necessary to this deck. You deck out amazingly fast, as you might expect, if you don't run this card, or rather if you don't get it. So if this card is prized, it all but kills you. I've been pretty lucky not to prize it very often, obviously, as those are only 6 cards out of your 60. It's 10%, so you only have a 1 in 10 chance of prizing it. But still, losing 1 out of every 10 games in a horrible way, or having to wait and very slowly power up Delphox or Pyro and try to steal a knockout and hopefully get the right prize, it's not as much fun of a game. So you could add in a second one of these to try to beat those odds. You could even pull Versus Seeker if you really want to. I'll leave that decision up to you. But honestly, since this is more of a fun deck, and the 1 in 10 isn't that bad of a chance, I'd honestly just leave the Trump card at 1. I wouldn't really worry too much about that card. The only other card that I can say you could pull is probably Bicycle. I've actually found this card to be the only really not so useful card in the deck. Not that it's necessarily unuseful, but more that you can probably find better options. And the best option by far is an Ace Spec, which I try to leave Ace Specs out of my budget decks anyway. And there are 2 Ace Spec options that you can add in its place that really sort of grab my attention. One of them is Computer Search. It functions a lot like an Ultra Ball. It can thin out cards from your hand that you don't want in there that are making Delphox a little less powerful with its Mystical Fire. And it also gets you whatever you need to complete combos, like setting up your Delphox. It gets you Rare Candy, gets the Delphox itself, whatever you need. That's pretty useful, and that's arguably the best choice. But a very close second is actually Scramble Switch, your other alternative that you can sub in. I actually found that was one of the things we kind of needed, the ability to power up Charizard EX very, very quickly, or to move energies and make a surprise Delphox that's strong enough to take an EX in one shot. Those are plays that we definitely had opportunities for when I tried to play this deck earlier. So if you are wanting to play this deck, which like I say, I recommend you play it because it's cheap and it's a lot of fun, and you get to play cards you usually don't, like Pokeball, for instance. I'm tickled pink still that I get to play Pokeball in this deck. Like I say, if you get a chance, try one or the other of these. Kind of go with your gut, play a few games, try the other one. So there's the deck. There are my only changes. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more Pokemon content.